Hey, welcome back to Vikings Vantage presented by Pepsi, Gabe, Henderson, Chris Corso, and our special guest, voice of the Vikings, Paul Allen. Paul, what's going on?
Yo, what's going on, boys? Chris, good to see you. Gabe, excited to give you the vantage into a border battle, talk this 1 and 5 out a little bit and see where we go from here.
Yep, this will be your 40th time calling a border battle game. 2002 was your first year with the Vikings. What's your favorite Packers-Vikings memory?
You know, the when I went full-time at KFAN Radio in 98, I was doing Vikings Fan Line, and my first time to a Vikings-Packers game was at Lambeau Field. It was a rainy Monday night, Randy Moss, coming out party everybody's talked about. So that is forever memorable. Then in 2000, for whatever the reason, WCCO radio carrying the Vikings at that time, they wouldn't hook up with the team and do a .com. So the Vikings needed an announcer and a team to call games simply for a .com. So I was at Lambeau, I think it was 99, for the Chris Dishman Immaculate Deflection with Antonio Freeman. That forever was memorable. But when you go back to 09 and the Monday Night Football game here with the Twins in the playoffs and all these big Twins, including my good friend Denard Span, on the sideline for a Vikings victory, Favre against his former team. And then at Lambeau when Favre and Longwell ran out of that tunnel. I mean, I'll never forget it as long as I live.
That's pretty amazing. I remember my first season with the Vikings was 2015 when we won the division in Lambeau. I think it was Xavier Rhodes had a big interception on Mr. Aaron Rodgers, and now Aaron has come a long way. You've called just about every Vikings-Packers game with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. What is he doing this year that is making him so successful?
Great question, Chris. And in fact, Aaron's first start was on Thursday Night Football. Feels like '08. And it was Vikings at Lambeau Field. So, I mean, I was there for that one, too. I got a lot of respect for the way Aaron plays. What is playing into it this year is the fact that he's really embracing the no fans concept. And I'm not going to speak for Aaron. Of course, he would prefer to have the roar of the crowd. I mean, that's all they've ever known. But when you have no distraction and you're smart and talented like him, you're going to pick up on things the defense puts out there that defensive coordinators don't know that you know. So not only is he unbelievably in control of situations right now, I'll just lay it out like this. I've said it on my 9 to noon radio show, KFAN. His performance against the Vikings at US Bank Stadium, game 1, no fans, was the most in control, dominating quarterback performance I have ever witnessed live in my life.
Wow.
And that's simply emphasized in game 1, where the fans working against him and trying to throw him and the team off a little bit. I mean, even that little bit matters with the HOFs like that. He's, if he wins MVP, I won't be surprised.
So we talked about you calling all these games. Voice of the Vikings, Paul Allen, is here. And Paul, is there something different about these Packers-Vikings games, fans or without fans? Like, is there something – do you get up for these games also?
I love them. I always have. Lambeau Field, I'm not going this year because we're calling road games off TV. So I'll miss it, but will I really miss it if there's no fans? I don't like that part of the component, just personally speaking, doing a job while understanding everything else. I think this year is different for obvious reasons. Election coming up, very polarizing election. Of course, COVID and just everything everybody's gone through. I think, not speaking for people, I don't do that, but minds, I don't think, are as immersed on the border battle, even into the first one, as they normally were. Now we're 1 and 5, and they only have one loss. So people will follow, they'll watch, they'll listen, but the vitriol and the trash talking, it's down this year.
So you've been doing these games from US Bank Stadium when the Vikings are on the road this year, like you mentioned. What has that been like? Because we've seen the VEN, we record your reactions and stuff like that. But what has it been like calling a game not being in the stadium?
The first one we did, the Indianapolis game, I made more identification mistakes with the Colts with Jonathan Taylor and Wilkins than I'll make in the entire season of all the games. So the key here, and Gabe and I talked about this because we talked about many things actually, but the not freaking out and moving past it. And strengthening from there. That's what I learned immediately in the Indianapolis game. We got a TV, like a 60-incher with the TV copy everybody watches, a 60-incher with the all-22 copy where you get the full field. So adapting to that has been easy for me. But it's been fine. I mean, I've liked the calls. Hopefully people listening have. I would prefer to be at the stadium with fans, but without fans and during these times, I completely understand. I don't know. I mean, Gabe, you are in the Vox box when I'm calling these games with Bursic and Lieber, so you're there doing your job and it's different, but we still make it feel like you're there, I hope.
For sure, it feels like a I wouldn't say a locker room, but it feels like a game atmosphere. You set the scene for everybody in there, so it makes it feels like it's an actual game. We're just watching it on TV, but like if you take a step back and you're just an outsider looking into the room, it's like, dude, what is this man doing screaming at this TV right now? So, but it's been a lot of fun. But in a year where a lot of like you said, it's a year like none other. But trying to be positive. I don't want to foreshadow too much, but does this team have some similarities to that 2005 team? 2004, you're coming off of a playoff win. You lose to the Atlanta Falcons before the bye week, and then you go on a streak after the bye week in week 5. So, like, is there any type of comparisons there, or let's just go week by week?
That's good research, bud. I'm going to say no. And here's why. And I don't exactly remember what happened in 2005. I know in 2004 we went to Lambeau. We're 7-point dogs in a playoff game, backed into the playoffs, losing to Washington. The final game of the season, Moss walks off the field before the game's over. It's completely negative. We need John Casey to miss from like 60 just to make it into the playoffs. We made it in. Went there, 2004, beat Favre, beat the Packers, and moved on to Philly. So that was 2004. Now 2005, I recall what you're saying, but my answer is no, simply because of all of the inexperience with which they are dealing in the secondary. And, this is in no way an affront to a Super Bowl winning defensive backs coach in Mike Zimmer. Zimmer's record is fantastic. The team's been to the NFC title game. They've won the division twice. Last time they did it with a guy who most think is a backup quarterback and getting to the NFC title game. And so with that said, Mike knows what he's doing, and that's the end of the equation. But, when you get Dantzler, Gladney, Harrison, Hand, whomever, they're rookies. So, just with cornerbacks this year, they, I believe, have like 530 snaps so far through 6 from rookie corners. In the first 6 years with Mike, he had a grand total of 930. So you got Daniil season, bar season. That's just really, really difficult to overcome, man.
You talk about some of the young players on this Vikings defense, and I heard your X's and O's interview with Andre Patterson, and he's talking about bringing these guys along, and he's talking about the DJ Wanhams of the world. Who's the player that stands out to you when you see a Cameron Dantzler, some of these young guys, Jeff Gladney? Who's the one that you say that guy has the potential to be Daniil Hunter in a few years or the Eric Kendricks in a few years?
Yeah. We don't have one right now. And this is not a negative on the draft because, Justin Jefferson, 1,000%. Full speed running atop the routes and to watch stuff back, and Gabe knows this, he played wide receiver in college, that you can see these corners knowing this kid does everything fast, so they get a little twisted, and to see that when you watch the games back, Jefferson is a star. A big-time NFL star. After that, the answer is nobody, simply because we didn't have preseason games, and we did not have the right kind of an offseason to raise corners like Gladney, Dantzler, Hughes when he plays, only in his 3rd year, Harrison Hand. You just didn't have the proper offseason to raise those guys. So now you're raising those kids on the fly against Aaron Rodgers, Phillip Rivers, Russell Wilson, A-Rod again, so on and so on. So I don't know the answer to that yet, Chris, but I will.
Fadio Denabo, speaking of the rookies, he said these rookies aren't rookies anymore. Those first 4 games, we'll treat that as a preseason game, week 1 being the Packers. But now, after a bye week, it's time to get going. That's the mindset going forward. So, of course, week 1, not that competitive. The Vikings kept the score close. 43-34, I think, is the final score. But that doesn't really entail the actual game. So, week 8, right now where we stand, how do the Vikings keep this game competitive?
I like the way Odenabo put that. He's right. And I've seen it in Jeff Gladney, kind of back to Chris's question. We will give you 3 to 4, but then after that, it needs to start looking like what it's supposed to look like, because that's why we drafted you. With Gladney, I've seen it. Now, Dantzler's been up and down because he did a lot of good things in that Seattle game, man. I mean, he missed a deflection on the first DK Metcalf touchdown, a front left of the end zone, where he played it perfectly, and, hey, Russell gets to make plays too. Now, when he got all twisted up on that 4th and 10, that needs to get better. So, like for Cam, we see this, and then I think they see that, and then they just want this. Gladney played 9 snaps against the Packers and clearly wasn't ready. It's his game against Indy I felt was bad, with all due respect. From that point on, Jeff's been good. Jeff's tough. Jeff's a really, really tough player. So I like the way he's going off the way you laid that thing out per number 95. The best way to win this game, in my opinion, is to play a game of keep away, where I'd like to hold the ball 40 minutes and give it to them 20. If it works out 34-26, okay? But you got to play a game of keep away. Keep that creature off the field and do it that way and score. When Dalvin Cook is playing with Jefferson and Thielen and Irv Smith Jr. and Rudy and Cousins, they can score, and they can score a lot of points, and they will score a lot of points this weekend.
My last question is the Devante Adams matchup seems to be the toughest one for just about every team in the NFL. I mean, he's been amazing this year, and he was amazing in week 1 against the Vikings. So if you're Coach Zimmer, Coach Zimmer just about as good as anybody. If you're Coach Zimmer, how are you scheming up? Are you doing like some kind of cloud zone on his side? Are you doubling him up in double coverage? What is your plan in stopping Devante Adams?
Well, deception's very important. And, when I looked at the Wednesday injury report and, off just that practice, I'm assuming Harrison Hand, Jeff Gladney, and new guy Mark Fields. He's not new, he's been around, but Mark Fields, they were the corners. Okay, so now if that's what it is, you move forward with that and you come up with a plan. So obviously, doubling Devante all the time means Marquez Valdez-Scantling might get behind somebody. Aaron Jones can catch. Jamal Williams can catch. It's a beast. But Zimmer's high end, so he'll have something ready for sure. Devante Adams' work against the Houston Texans, it's the fastest I've ever seen him play in his life. And it was reminiscent of, I'm going to say about 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago. There was a wide receiver at Liberty against a team from Coastal Carolina. It's George Henderson.
I think his name's I'm trying to think of his name too.
No, it was Gabe Halberstein. And the route running and the speed and the turns and the feet, man, that reminded me of Devante with what I saw against Houston.
I love
we will not see him play. I think he's about one hit away from breaking every bone in his body. But thank you, PA.
Is that Gabriel Halverstein?
Gabe. We can go with that name. I can't pronounce his last name either. So thank you all, Paul Allen.
Hey, man. Yeah, I got you. You can call me Pete if you want. All right, Charles. Good seeing you, man. Charles, John, and everybody else, thanks for watching and listening. And go Vikes. Hopefully we pull the upset this weekend.
That's voice of the Vikings, Paul Allen. This is the Vikings Vantage.